Thank you. There was a sudden shift. I don't know. It got ended and again I had to log in. My voice is audible, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. The structure and technology in people. I was trying to tell you an example of what I have seen as a change. The Sushma Swaraj was actually answering back to us on the email that we have given. We wanted to get to know that can we actually go with 65 people to the China, and then within, I think I posted mail in the morning 11:15 or so, I got an answer by 2:30. And then someone who's a special officer to her also have given their phone number in the email, and we had reached. We have got some kind of insight saying that at this point of the time, don't go to China because we have a border tension. So that kind of a piece of information has actually helped us and save us to take a decision and detour ourselves to Dubai port. But what I'm trying to say is the entire structure of the way functioning is supposed to happen has changed tremendously in a different kind of leadership. And all of them, those are implementing are the change agents, which I've never thought about from a government office. That will be so quick. That will be so quick. And they were actually reporting back to her immediately that there is a 60 students batch wants to go to China and they want our suggestions. I felt like it will take at least 1 week for them to respond back and maybe we will take a decision. It so happened in 48 hours, and that itself has made me to think, oh, change is definitely happening. So if I have to believe as a citizen of India, change is happening, it did happen. And what I've got immediate results. Somebody has attended to me. That is the philosophy maybe they've put it into, that you have to attend faster in whichever mode of a communication. Don't wait for the paper. You don't wait for somebody to come to you physically. So all this is so great. So what is it change did happen? The structure has changed. How people report each other, how people respond, how people answer back, how people actually take accountability has changed tremendously. And that has brought the trust in people like me who are actually seeking for certain kind of customer care or certain kind of advices. So sometimes it's structure, massive changes, the way that you function, the massive changes, the way that people report to. Sometimes it's technology itself, because the technology that you have is good enough, but it is not good enough for the contemporary, right? You may have to change it. You may have to put something more investment into. The technology is always the biggest change that can actually make changes possible. Along with that, nevertheless, not to forget, people are the biggest factor that actually change happens. So many times you must be experiencing it. One leader, one good leader who comes and who actually changes the entire table of functioning, the way that you do it. And that rolls out so many beautiful incremental changes, as well as it also brings great benefits to it in whichever direction it's going. And you could see that things started rolling in a very different direction. That can happen in a very different way also. When you meet people, those who are into a different direction and they're bringing what kind of changes they're into, the direction is wrong. Maybe you will also have some kind of cascading effects of those changes, which is happening in your organization. Okay. But it is very visible that people do matter and people do come and change so many things, and you get to see the benefits, and the writing on the wall is very clear that you are getting the positive changes. And that's how the structure, technology, people do have a great role in the entire change process, and three varieties of it, all the three types. Very significant changes can happen. Significant changes are bound to happen in three categories. One is structure, technology, and people. There's something called Kurt Lewin's organizational change thing is, this is a great that he actually explained about, right? There are three phases in Kurt Lewin's. As far as the discussion is going on, okay, how many of us are there? 7 or 6 people? 24.
We are 23 now. Yeah, 23.
Thank you. That's good. Good number. Immediately, I've seen it. Okay. So whenever you want to bring in change, what is it you would like to take? The first is take a stock statement of what are we, and whether it is your economic appraisal, your financials, your people, your structure, your technology, your customer, your support system, your resources. Take everything into account. Inventory on all your goodwill, everything taken into account. And what is the particular scenario of yours today? It's easier said than done, but that's a massive exercise of taking account of everything at this present point of time. What is it you would like to move towards which direction? So it's like, after taking that particular exercise, like, taking a call for, we want to change. Now, all the departments said that, yes, we are in for the change. So when you have done that internal exercise of to what extent that we are ready for a change. Now, this can be a very vague or a dry question right now in a classroom, speaking to when we are theoretically speaking, but in reality, that's a real question. It's a real question which comes back to us every minute. You think that we can change, yes, but to what extent? What is a perception of your change? To what extent you think that we can move? Is it a third layer or a second layer or a fourth layer? We're going to revamp everything. So these are fundamental questions, and those are the questions that will actually drive us to the entire tunnel of the change process. Now, once an organization has done that particular exercise of taking the account of whether we want to change and to what extent we want to change and what is the level of the change, and can we do that to the extent of what our contemporary people are doing, right? Maybe that's a call for the organization. Once you've taken that call, these are the 3 stages that we can actually think of it. What is it? First of all, unfreeze. What do you do in an unfreeze is, the present situation is operating a machine in a very different way. People are being recruited in this way, and you're spending your money like this. Let's say you're taking 3 parameters. For all the 3 parameters, you would like to unfreeze. What do you want to do? You will not do the same way. You would like to do in a new way or a new method. So first of all, you will disrupt yourself from the existing method is nothing but unfreezing yourself. I repeat, first of all, disrupting yourself from the existing method. Giving the signals to your entire department saying that we are having a new process, we are having a new thing, automatically it will take over. Now there are going to be trials. So we all will be stopping this particular process for a 24 days or a 1 week, and we are going to experiment with the new process. Okay. That new process, somebody want to say something? Okay. That new process, we would experiment and we'll try to take a call. Maybe that's what it is. So in the unfreezing thing, where you are disrupting, you are actually dispatching yourself from the existing processes and then trying to emulate the new process, right? Now, that is what the second one called change. Where the original actual change, the way that you want in your organization, it will start taking place. And how does it happen? It happens, maybe you will do it in a, yes, Mayuri.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to check one thing on the unfreeze part. So what you're trying to communicate in the unfreeze part of the change management by Kurt Lewin is that here is where you decide you want to take a change and make a change and then decide the approach for the change, probably do analysis to see to what extent you need to get into a change.
Yes.
It would also involve a lot of communication with the employees to kind of tell them
Yes.
this is what we are going to do, and of course try to get in all the stakeholders in place. Is my understanding correct, ma'am?
Yes. A
Okay,
lot of homework, lot of preparation, you can actually write down. I'll put it into this one. There's something called nemawashi in Japanese. Okay. You can search for it. This is one of the Japanese technique of managing people, managing situations before you go for a bigger change or even a change. So it's called nemawashi. What is it? In simple terms of English, in simple terms of an understanding, like, the way that you actually prepare a plant when you are trying to uproot it, you try to dig the entire thing, surroundings, you start preparing the space, surroundings. You straight away not pluck the entire tree straight away, right? You prepare it with you water it, you make things better, and you try to communicate with the particular tree that I'm going to uplift you. That's the way it's called nemawashi, uprooting the process. Similarly, whatever is the present condition, you would like to unfreeze it. There's a different level of a homework. Although it's massive for the basing on your organization level and the size of organization, you may have to go through an exercise called first tell all the stakeholders saying that we are going to go for a change. And that change going to be as a permanent change provided it has given us the desired results. So there can be an internal, external, other kind of levels of a preparation, mental preparation to all the stakeholders through your information. The information is not only is that I'm going to change, we are going to change. No, information is also accompanied with the process and explanation that to what extent that we're going to take. Is it the first phase or the second phase, and what are the benefits and what are the do's and don'ts, and how is it an organization is getting prepared for it, and what is the need of the hour? The need of the hour is your competitors are actually killing the market and you're still at only 0 level. You have not even come to the first level and they're already there at the 3rd level. How did it happen? Because we were very happy with the sales and we have not taken the stock of any change. Now we have to change, but last 12 years, 13 years, we have not changed. Our market is good, our revenue is good, but doesn't mean that it's going to be a permanent situation called that our revenue is going to be guaranteed. So this kind of talk, this kind of, I just gave you an example of it, right? What happens is this kind of scenario, the actual scenario of your company, what it wants supposed to be done and why is it needed at this hour and what are you doing and who's actually driving you? Is it external forces or internally also you would like to change for the sake of change and you want to really keep yourself at the top of the game? Or is it like somebody else has already rolled their game and you have not yet done and you are at the back? Right? You're already lacking. So these are reasons for your internal vision and mission processes. For your management bio objectives. What are your objectives? What are you actually achieving? To what extent you have already done? You're in a happy space, but what is that happy space that you think that it can last for? There is no guarantee. Customer is nowhere, is loyal to you. So these are questions inside. These are quantitative as well as qualitative. Quantitative, it will explain to you through your numbers, data. Your statistics will talk about all the quantitative information. Qualitative, your leaders will do that. Why do we need a change? If at all we are going for it, to what extent we will do? And what are the preparations and what are the asks? Each particular change philosophy that you are bringing into organization has got an ask. It's asking something from your employees, your immediate stakeholders to do something. And what are they supposed to roll off for? And what are they supposed to jump into? So these are the qualitative measures that you're going to talk about. You're going to show them the dashboards and if you do this, if you don't do this, if you are not into it, this is what it is. So a lot of talk happens, a lot of preparation happens, like according to the way that I said, Nema Washi. A lot of process preparation in the entire system, departments wise, cross-function wise, does happen. Then you call it is unfreeze. What is unfreeze? We're getting ready for a new process. Right? That's an unfreezing process. Second one is exactly immediately you do a process called change. So what you promised your stakeholders, what you brought in as a change, what you told them, what you laid down, you're trying to exactly implement that change as a change. So that's a box of a change. In that framework, you're absolutely implementing the change, right? Then you say that no more changes further because you cannot do it on a daily basis. Once you've taken this particular activity, we have changed, we have seen, and we want to see the results of it. So you freeze it. That is, you refreeze, unfreeze and change and refreeze means close. Over and above, no more further changes. We will try to see that 2 layers, 1 layer or a 3 layer or a 2 actions or a 2 processes. We brought in a change. We will try to see the results of it. Right? So we will continue the same process called this particular change. We would like to implement for 6 months and make an observation notes and see to then whether it is replicated, can be replicated or not, can be done continuously or not. We'll take a call. If that is not giving us the benefit the way that we want it at this juncture, at this particular crossroads that a company is in, what kind of results that we want? If it is not giving us, it's not actually benefiting us, maybe we'll take a different detour. But no more further new changes unless we really get the proper data, confirmations, qualitative as well as quantitative, that the kind of statistics speaks to us that, yes, we'll continue. So that is where you say refreeze. Whenever you want unfreeze, change, and again, refreeze. These are 3 layers. Anyone who wants to tell that what are the other changes that has happened into your company? Did you also go through? You must have gone through, although you don't call it as unfreeze, change, and refreeze, but that's the original way of a process. Academically, even if you don't talk like that. Okay. Anyone wants to share anything? Or is it clear? Please do share your view.
It's clear, ma'am, but I can give an example.
Can you be louder? Yeah.
Are you able to hear me, ma'am? Sorry, yeah. Is it better now?
Yeah, it's better now.
Yeah. So, ma'am, I was just listening to what you said, and one example that came to my mind was that I worked for HSBC for about 25 years,
Mhm.
and we were an organization which was always very service focused.
Mhm.
So the customers walk in, you sell them whatever products you have, and that's the end of it. I think Citibank always has been a game changer for any banking in the banking domain, and they had a huge culture of sales.
Mhm.
And whilst we didn't call it unfreeze, unfreeze and change and then refreeze, but there was a strategy change in terms of wanting to get into the sales domain as as I would say, violently as Citibank, because that was a term that we used to use at that point, that you can't be in Citi bank without being 24 by 7 in action.
Mhm.
So from the service, whilst we did not get off from the service aspect, we still gave a lot of emphasis to service. But I think that subtle change that we need to be sales oriented, hiring people who would actually go and sell products in the market, having
Exactly.
targets for people who were in the front line, that you just don't have to sit pretty and smile at the customer. And if he wants to put a fixed deposit, go ahead and give the form, but actively now start sourcing, telling the customer you have money in the account. It's just sitting there. Why don't you put it on FD? So I think the entire game changer was that slowly and steadily from service move into sales without impacting the service. And I think and then again we stopped. We said, okay, fine. So refreeze. So we now looked at the change. We did the change processes. We managed the change, educated the employees, communicated. And then from there, you go back to your sales and service both, because now you have two distinguished sales forces. One who would aggressively sell in the market, the other which would provide service and sales. So I think that's a change that happened and impacted most of the banking industry slowly, from being a service-oriented culture to a sales-oriented.
And cycle-wise, it got repeated.
It got more aggressive as it progressed. Because how much sale is enough is not a question that anybody can answer, right? You always have this increasing targets year on year. So yes, it did get cyclically repeated. I wouldn't call it an 8-year cycle like how the stock market movement is, but yes, every 10 years there would be a refreshing of the policies, of the targets, not targets, more of how you go about selling the targets.
Mhm.
Soft sell, hard sell. So yes, it did go through some progression.
Great. Thank you. Yes, Rasya ji. Rasya Modak.
Yes, ma'am. So a couple of examples from my organization. So we always believe that we are a people-centric organization, but some of the HR policies were not really aligned to that. For example, the working hours were fixed 9-hour working 5 days a week, which means that even if you clock in 1 minute less than 9 hours, you get an absent without leave, or you have to regularize. And so moving from time bound to output bound is something, it's a policy change that happened, which created a mindset change. So they changed it to 7 hours minimum requirement, and then you should work within the 4 working hours. And so if any employee has suddenly a day where they want to leave a little early, it's just about taking the consent of the reporting manager and leaving, if they've completed 7 hours. The other thing was also paternity leave policy, which was not there. Because now in a society, when we say men and women are equal and only women get maternity leave, but men don't get paternity leave. So that was also one more thing. And then LGBTQ plus policy. So these are some mindset changes and shifts in employee centricity that I've seen over the last 2-3 years. So,
Super.
and it's a continuous process, ma'am, because every year, typically in the town hall, the CEO announces something or the other.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Others, please, those who have raised hands, please do talk. Yeah.
Yes, madam. Regarding change, what I think is people should be convinced, people should be told about as to how that change is going to benefit them. Or like we are always saying, what is in it for me?
Yeah.
So if the people are convinced about this, then I think the resistance will be lessened. Thank you.
Yeah. One more person who raised their hand. Yeah. So this is where I think no more discussion, or still anyone raised their hand? Have not seen. I'll continue. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So this is called Kurt Lewin's expression of a change, right? He talks about 3 stages called unfreeze, go for a change, refreeze it. So it's a very interesting way that don't bring in too many changes continuously. Make a piece of it. It's like a piecemeal base, right? It's like a one time you make a decision of a change, disrupt the present situation, bring in the change, close it. That is refreeze it. Take the stock, take the stock of your quantitative rather qualitative, both of them, on what is happening around. Basing on that particular information or stock available to you, take for a bigger thing called, yes, this change is going to be permanent. We're going to implement it not for 6 months, we're going to make it 2 years or a longer period. So you go for an experimentation of a longer period only on the basis of a test that you have done, like on the Kurt Lewin, which is very interesting. This can be done for the individuals also. We also can actually experiment with what we want to do, which we do it, but we may not call it as a Kurt Lewin, a process of a change. That's the only idea. It is developed in 1940s, remains relevant because of its very simple yet effective structure, very simple and 3 process structure. According to the change models, namely Kurt Lewin organization change management can be broken down into 3 smaller, more manageable stages. That's what I kept on saying, that it is very manageable. First thing is, before even going for the unfreeze, you talk about it, you make your stakeholders well aware, prepare them, bring in all the information to them, why and what is the need of the hour, and give the rationale to this particular change that you're going to do. And then disrupt, unfreeze, whatever is present situation, unfreeze it, go for a change, and then refreeze it, right? Now, this is a very manageable 3 blocks process of the Kurt Lewin's mentioned, the way that change can happen. Next one is a force field analysis. Now, whenever we want to change, there are kind of forces that are actually for change, forces which are against change. Now, each organization will have their own pain points inside, because every organization culture is very different and peculiar to its own nature. And the problems also will be stemming from certain kind of areas, which is very peculiar to your own organization, typical of your own organization. Sometimes sector specific, sector very typical to that particular sector, sometimes very typical to your only organization. Whichever case, you will have, let's say that you want to go for a digitization. Going for digitization has got its own pain points, complete digitization for any sector. But in certain kind of sectors, it's even more critical, because maybe that specific job itself like that. Okay. The specific nature of that particular job is like that. So what is it? You do have many organizations do go through certain kind of things called, how many number of aspects of our parameters are actually for or helping us to go for change, and how many things would actually go against our change, because it will actually collapse, or it will not give us a benefit, or it will actually stretch our present resources, or we will hurt ourselves. So these are areas where what is it you can do, to what extent, number of things that are actually against, number of things that are actually for the change, you weigh it. You're taking a stock up. You're trying to assess the entire situation. So for the assessment, the force field analysis is the best one, because you're taking the forces which are actually complementary to your proposal called a change. You're also taking the forces that are absolutely into against or into different direction, opposite direction for the proposed change. You still can think of it, you can go for it. To what extent you think that you can go for it? So it's not like a number game, like 3 people or 3 parameters are for and 4 parameters are against. We still will go or we cannot go. Of course, it at some point it may look like as a number game, like all the departments and all the parameters of the departments and the functional areas are actually for, and maybe they all can actually adapt to it. Maybe that's a good signal. But your stakeholders, your investors, or your other philosophies that people do believe, maybe that's not going well with it. So sometimes it is coming from a very different corner that you have not expected. Maybe it's just one or two areas that is not for change. Still, you may have to hold it. Reason, it is a bigger one. It's coming from a very, interesting point of view. Let's say that your technology, R&D, your R&D is not good enough. Your R&D hasn't really invested much and you want to go for a bigger change. Unless you actually strengthen your R&D, your bigger change that you're going to bring in is not going to help you, because it will be a very hodgepodge and it will be a very imbalanced change that you're going to improvise upon. And that will be a different call. All the other factors are very good. You can go for it, but your R&D is going to not to support, because either your technology or the people or R&D philosophy of yours itself is always to look for what is there in the market and then you started doing it, but you are never proactive in the market. Let's say, okay, probably that will give you an understanding that your research and your R&D process and investments into R&D, your results and your proactiveness, you're not being proactive is something very wrong. At this point of time, you may not go for a change. So it's like, number of things which are for, number of things which are against. You take a kind of, dashboard and then look at it and then see to that, can we really take a call now? Can we jump into it? To what extent do you think that it's going to benefit us? If it is not benefiting, it's okay, but it should not hurt us at this point of the moment. And it should not be kind of, we jumped into and we burned our fingers and we come back. And that kind of a change is not going to fix anything. It actually creates multiple layers of problems. The change initiative itself is becoming a problem for us to cope with. That is not a change. That's going to be a very pain in the neck, right? So that is where you are trying to analyze. And this is a bigger exercise. This is a massive exercise. Why? If you want to bring in a different change altogether, you may have to assess it. And I keep saying this, the more and more you think of change to happen and successfully happen and effectively, the change should bring you results. The assessment should be a very robust assessment, right? If you want to change something, you have really entered into something, say that, who actually assessed it? Who visited this place? Somebody must have really given the alert. There is no alarm. There is no alert. Nobody has given us the particular, clue. There is no alarm clues that there are certain kind of gray areas. If that is not there in your assessment report, maybe you are completely doomed, right? So nobody wants that kind of a change. So assessment is a bigger exercise, and spending time, good time, enough time into assessment is what actually brings you back the right kind of smooth, expected results, because planning, assessment is also part of planning. You would like to assess the entire thing. Only then you would like to plan further. So the original planning, whenever we say planning, of course, you want to go for a further and the farther and the future. But the point is taking the stock of the existing situation, which is for, which is against, and what is that which actually gives you, can we leverage upon this particular new process? Can we think that we can move forward? This assessment is the very crucial thing, very critical thing for any organization. Let it be a smaller change or a bigger change, okay? Because when you are not ready for this kind of assessment, that will actually put us into a great trouble. Maybe you can give us your examples of some things which really did not go well. Some things did not fall in place according to your assessments. Maybe in the beginning, you all thought that it can actually give you results, but later on it didn't give, or it has not given you multiple levels of results. It only has stopped at one or two layers. And again, you had to go back to certain kind of other initiatives or added initiatives to make sure that your change is happening. Any one or two examples from your own company, that would be great to really carry forward with more further discussions of the force-field analysis. How good you think that your companies are actually doing assessment, and what are the assessment levels that you are actually part of it, or you heard of it, or it comes back to you to take the stock of your department and what is it doing, if at all we want to. Do you think that kind of such exercises you have seen or you have never seen, or you're part of it? Or you are the real change agent? Can you actually share?
Ma'am, would employee engagement surveys come under this purview?
Of course.
So in my organization, there's an annual employee engagement survey, which is outsourced to a company that does this. And then there are manager scorecards for managers who have 5 or more than 5 team members aligned to them. There is an overall say and strive kind of a model where the organization gets a sense of what is the engagement level of the employees in terms of how many people would speak positively about the organization, how many want to stay and grow in the organization, and how many want to put extra efforts over and above for the betterment or the progress of the organization. So these are the 3 broader parts that come in the engagement survey.
Great. So you take the stock of it, and that will actually go as a feeding information to the top-notch people to make a decision and whether you're in the right direction or not. So getting the right feedback from the ground is a beautiful thing, and that's definitely to assess the force. It's like part of contributing to one way or the other force field analysis. That is, how many things are actually in favor for us to certain aspects of a decision making. It's all for your decision making unit. In management sense, we all talk in terms of decision management. For your decision management, each unit, your employee engagement, employee resources, and your intake, all of them are part of units, and which is contributing the bigger decisions of your organization. Right? Agree or not?
Yes, ma'am. That's also how all the HR policy changes have come into being, because there's a lot of data that went through this survey.
The collected data is actually acting as a great feed to come to the real assessment, and that will change the scenario. That's how you might have got new policies and the new improvisations in your HR policies, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, others, those who have raised their hands.
Ma'am? Yes, ma'am. So similarly, in my organization, recently they are doing focus group discussions with the various category of job levels. So they started with the operator, they started with the middle group, middle employee, and they are going with the manager's manager, and with the team supervisors, team leaders, as well as with the suit leads. So they are collecting data, and this survey is done by the external agency, and it is regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. So although we had been awarded with so many diversity, equity, and inclusion awards, and still this survey is happening. So the survey itself shows that there is a gap in the what we are pretending and what we are having. So I could just relate with this.
Yeah, that's good that you have shared it. In ground reality, what happens is, let's say that when you are applying for an award for your diversity base, maybe you would show that particular pilot zone or that particular most happening particular department's results, showcasing that, yeah, we are actually into diversity thing. But in ground reality, in the shop floor, maybe across the departments, cross-functionally, you may not be up to that mark of a diversity, and you need to really, inclusiveness and equity kind of thing is not still to that desired level. So that's a room for improvement always. So even to that room for improvement, what is actually stopping? What are the forces which are not allowing to happen?
Yes. So especially I'm in the Vizag place. So here we are having an Indian tradition and Indian mentality, and mostly the women colleagues are not being included in and they have not felt included in or not welcomed in the whatever the initiatives taken by the organizations.
Why is
and
it
those
so? Can I ask why the few men, why is it so?
So because of the mindset, ma'am, it is all comes to the mindset.
No. Is it because of the color, creed, or education, or their habits?
No, ma'am, no, ma'am. Somewhere men think like they are superior to men. Men think they are the driver of everything. So it is mentality only. It is not anything else. and we are all grown up and we are cultured in the men driven culture, and because of that it is happening. So
Okay.
I can conclude it is the root cause of this is the nurture, how the parents are nurturing their children, and how they are making the differentiation between a girl child and a boy child.
Mhm.
So maybe this could be the root causes.
So this not being included is the girls or the women or being, which are the section of the people you think that they're not included?
The current challenge organization is facing, like we are having female colleagues, but
Mhm.
if we the echo is like they are not included, they have not felt included, there is a
Mm,
lack of inclusion,
mm,
though we have got so many diversity, equity, inclusion from the sources like Forbes,
mm,
highly recognized by world.
mm.
So still there are the gaps in the inclusion side of the female colleagues. So this is happening because of the male-driven culture. I may be wrong, but from my perspective, it is somewhere uh, men are thinking in that way,
Mm.
and girls means women colleagues are feeling this because it was actually happened with them,
Oh,
maybe in the decision making process, maybe in the taking initiative in somewhere, maybe somewhere they have not given the opportunity to speak, or
mhm.
there could be a number of reasons, but this is happening because it is not in the place.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're not being participative, rather how many number of women sit in the boardrooms or how many number of women get to sit in a regular meetings and how many women do get a chance to give their opinion or their side of ideas or a designs or a thought process, which will be even equally being taken as one of the good things. Or how many women actually just sit and then listen to others, most of the male colleagues, and come out of it. And anyway, the implementation happens because although she has got a good idea, uh, she's being beaten by more numbers because the numbers are big from the male colleagues and she's only one person or two people. So it's like in some of the rooms of the meetings, that's also a game. That's also mentally
Yeah, but
frustrating.
numbers, in terms of numbers, we are having I can say 40% female colleagues are there.
Mm.
So there is a difference of that 10 to 20%, but globally it is good number of female colleagues are there. But the
Yeah,
acceptance level of men towards the female colleague is not there, and because of that, this survey is happening.
great, great. So I think I can actually say this over here. See, having number of people is one good thing. That's a first move towards the having the inclusion, that is diversity, that is you do have gender share, equal gender share, at least to some extent. That's a very good point. Second one is having more number of women doesn't mean that number of women is also having a say there. They don't have a
Yes.
say because they come from a different kind of state of status quo. The status quo of
Yeah.
your organization, in that if they're not into executive level, managerial level, but they're into implemented and the below the implementation level or the shop floor worker level, 40,000 people, 10,000 people of women against 20,000 or 15,000 of men, which is a good in number to talk about it. But when it comes to
Correct.
real management decision making, there is no single woman as an executive representing, is completely fiasco. Are you all agreeing with me?
Yes.
Right? So that is where your inclusion is not happening. Your diversity is not happening at all layers of your management. Your management layers, let us say workers level, you have a good composition of both genders. But at the manager level, execution level, directors level, no, it's all completely men. Then there is no diversity happening actually, because it should
Correct.
happen on all the pyramid, entire 3 levels or the 4 levels of your pyramid. If it is not happening, it's a very periphery where you think that you do have, because
And
decision
because
making.
of, yes, ma'am, sorry to interrupt. Because
Yeah,
of that, organization had kept a goal to increase the female candidature at VP level to 47%. And now we are already having 6 to 7 females who are actually driving the business, and they are the decision makers and they own an entity on the global levels.
group. Oh, super, super, super.
Yes.
Yeah, super. That's great. Yeah. Yeah, somebody else has raised their hand. Please tell me. Others, those who have raised their hand, can you talk?
No, ma'am, there are no
No,
people there.
no? Okay, thank you. So this is about force field analysis and how do we use it? How to use force field analysis as a tool for your change process, okay? Now, a useful decision-making tool, as I said, it's a very assessing tool. It gives you ample of information about what is happening and how do you think that, which direction you think that you can take. Sometimes it is times also. It is like time frame. After 6 months, what you're supposed to pull off, what after 8 months, after 1 year, what do you think that you can move? And what do you think that you can actually drop? What do you think that you can actually initiate new things? These are time frames that also can be discussed basing on your assessment level, because it's a very crucial and the massive exercise of assessing all your forces, the both forces which are against as well as the for of your change. Okay. Now it helps you identify and analyze forces for and against the change, which is the basic step of understanding. Now define your plan for change. What is your plan? You want to beat the competitor? That is your thing. Like I think I keep saying an example of Pepsi and Coca-Cola. Pepsi and Coca-Cola were actually releasing advertising to each other, or after some point Pepsi has lost it because Pepsi always wanted to respond and reciprocate to the Coca-Cola's advertisement. Your idea of changing your advertisements is only to beat the Coca-Cola, or you want to give something to the customer? What is your idea? What is your philosophy of change? On what basis you want to make these changes to happen? Win the customers or hit the competitor? So there's a driving force, right? What is your driving force? The driving force is to see to it that the competitor is not getting the piece of the cake, or to see that you are actually bestowing your customers with a great benefit. So what is your driving force? What is your change philosophy? What is your motivation to change? And that makes you on the right kind of path to tread. Okay. When you're trading, you have to trade much more carefully, because your goal or your direction or intention all is what that is going to take you to that particular direction, right? That's the reason when you're trading on the change process, please do check back why we actually assessing, and what is our goal, and what is our intention, what is our driving forces, methodology or the philosophy, and at what point and to what extent you think that you can change. These are discussions, and that also will go for your assessment, basically. There are some companies who have done massive mistakes and silly mistakes on part of their change philosophy. It's not that just because they're into a very happy space and a better space, so they can actually experiment, but they experimented in a very bad way to themselves, and that has actually hit them back. Okay, some of them. Brainstorm forces for the change. Okay, all of them, those who are good, bad, ugly, and not good for you, are extremely good for you. Whatever it is, take a stock of all of them, and that will help you. Step 3, brainstorm forces against change, which is where you have to spend more time. Sometimes all the against is not an against. Sometimes those who said yes to it today may not actually stick to you as an S, even employees. Sometimes some employees, those who have not given you a thumbs up in the beginning, but they're the one who's going to stand because they actually take things more of an assessment. So they're the risk averters. Once they understood there is not much of a risk in it, and maybe they all will jump into your bus and say that we are all with you. So sometimes the brainstorm forces against the forces of the against change are also very critical. You may have to spend a fortune amount of time on them, because getting no from a big no from many of the forces is also very alarming to you. Do you really want to do it? To what extent do you think you can do it? Or you can actually, this assessment brings you one more layer of fixing the same things. If you think that before going for a different change and you want to bring in a change to happen, implement, maybe certain things are asking you to fix things. That's also part of assessment. So when you're actually spending your time on brainstorming on the forces against the change philosophy that you're going to bring in, sometimes you may have to give them 2 to 3 layers of a talk, maybe fixing their opinions, mindset, makeup of the mind, right? Or sometimes you may have to give that particular thing that they're looking for, maybe promise them some kind of, processes will come your way and you will learn it and we will empower it. Sometimes people do have, why are they asking no for it? Why are they actually raising their hand as a no? Because they're afraid that they may not be empowered right now. They are not empowered right now to do that kind of business, right? And if you get into that change philosophy or that change process, maybe they're the first one to get the hit. and they'll be out of the job, or they're afraid that they may not actually able to do it because they're in lack of certain kind of skill sets. So as a management representative, as a change agent, maybe you have to put in that kind of information to them saying that, don't worry, change comes along with the empowerment strategies. I repeat, when a manager can convince their own employees saying that we are changing, but we are changing whenever we are actually implementing this particular change. We want you to change. We want you to do something else. But we are first of all, we're going to address your inabilities. We are going to address your lack of skills first of all. We're going to take a stock of who needs what kind of training program. So rest assured, we are going to empower you first of all with all the trainings, with all the materials, with all the information, with all the processes that the skills that you need. And then we will ask you to jump into as a change manager and then implement it. So when this happens and when this brainstorming happens, let's say that you walked into a room, there are 9 hands or 10 hands or who are saying no to your change. After your promise, after you have really shown them what it is, and you did walk through them, right? Walk them through the entire change philosophy, and what are the promises that you make, and what are the action plans that you've actually brought in along with your implementation process. At least out of 9, 4 hands will get down, saying that, oh, we were worried, right? So when you have taken their worry out with your promise, with your roadmap, with your action plan, along with how you're going to implement the empowerment process, I think at least you will win over minimum 4 to 5 hands. So you walked into a room which is full of 9 hands or 8 hands out of 15 were actually saying no. But by the time you actually end up your presentation, you'll come with at least 5 people will flock to you and then come say that, oh, this is what it is. Then we are all up in. I thought that we were not ready for this because you have given us information very clearly. You're in. That means what? The brainstorm or the preparation process that you are assessing at that point of the forces against the change has also come into your forces for the change. So you could convince, you could convert them. Okay. I'll stop here. Just let me see what is the chat somebody has written. What to change, why to change, what can help to change, and what can pull you back, analysis, evaluate, action plan, event. Yes, Sandeep ji, can you also speak about it? Please. That's a good thing. You wrote about it. Say that to us.
Actually, the changing process always talk about that first we need to identify what to change. And there should be reason. Why should I change all the things? So we need have clear-cut understanding why we need this change. And then we need to understand, okay, yes, if I want to do it, this change, then what can help us to go ahead with this change, and what can pull you back. And according to this analysis of the same, then next come how part, how we can take it ahead for further. And then we should prepare the action plan for it. And after doing the action plan, implementation should be there. And after implementation, once again, we should come to the point like evaluate the same. Is it is going on the same direction or not? If not, once again, the process will be continued.
True.
That's the thing.
This is a proper assessment of it. This is a proper spending time on the entire process of whether we can do it or not. Assessment of the change forces, the forces that will actually help you, action plan, and the total stock statements of what extent that you think that you can sustain the change that you're implementing. First of all, the first layer of change you have actually gone for, but do you think that you can actually sustain? Sometimes sustaining the change that you have initiated is also a big question or a big challenge for many organizations, right?
Right, ma'am.
Yeah. I think we have time. I think we can talk about it. This is an ADKAR model. The very name itself is talk about each one letter represents why. And you're trying to make sure that internally, externally to all your stakeholders, your change philosophy is being explained to, either through symbols or through your information, through your meetings or through your shareholder meeting or a press meeting. You're trying to tell them why we're changing and what are we bringing in that, and what is that a customer can actually look into it, and what is that they have got into it. So this is what an external communication that you're doing, internally also you're doing. And you are trying to promise your internal people that saying that we are trying to hold you. So hand holding will happen. A lot of hand holding will happen. A lot of understanding, a lot of mentoring can happen, will happen. And we are not trying to push that change on you just like that. We are not trying to leave you just to roll with the change without any clue. We're going to make it a phase wise. We're going to make it that this particular process will give you ample of results. Individual also you'll benefit. It will go right into your resume saying that you are part of this kind of activities, and these training programs or the resources that you're going to get through will help you for your throughout career. So these are discussion, these are learning materials that you're going to share with them. These are big plans that you're going to have your employees, whether down the line 3 years up to you all will be together, because once we have initiated this change, we don't want to relieve anyone. So there are going to be huge HR policies that you're going to roll out saying that once we are investing in every one of your training program, sending you out of country, sending you to a bigger institutions, making you upskill for your so many things. And suddenly after 3 months of your training program, you put your papers down. That is very unfair to the organization, because organization is spending a lot of money on the entire change to happen. And we expect you to be part of the change engine forces coming down the line, the road. So that's the reason we are investing things in you. So if you don't be loyal to the company, at least down the line of for 3 to 4 years, we have to reap the benefits the way that we're actually investing in you. This is what the language of the HR, or this is what the language of the senior people saying that please, once you have been chosen to be part of the change, you're being empowered by the training program, means we are investing in you, means we want that particular ROI, right? Return on investment. We want return on investment that whatever you're investing in you, make sure that you're going to go back to the particular concerned department of yours. And based on the training programs or the resources that is being given to you, you're going to deliver what you're supposed to deliver. Then the loop is closed. Then we are very happy. After some point, then once you have actually taken that course of action, maybe you're free to move, but not immediately. So there's going to be huge HR policies going to roll out saying that once with the change philosophy is accepted and once we have assessed, when we have jumped into change, we want people to go to training programs and we are investing. But that also comes with a decision called you cannot put your papers down. You are going to go into a bonding, maybe 2 years or 3 years, till we see that particular change is supposed to occur in your entire organization. People, those are being chosen to be the change agents and being chosen to be privileged lot to travel abroad and then get great trainings and come back. All of them are supposed to give us back what we have given you. And that is what the language of the company. And that is where even one more internal change happens whenever to implement the change. Again, you have the implementation of another change saying that HR policy rolled out. People, those who are part of this particular change agents are not supposed to move out of the company coming 3 years. This is another immediate change that will affect you also before even implementation of the change happen. You agree for that, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Next, this one, ADKAR model is nothing but you're trying to make awareness about the change. Right? You speak about it, as I said. Awareness, the change, right? To employees well ahead of the time. It's not like a quick fix. It's not like a over the night. Never it happens, but unless it's a very emergency, right? So it's like you're making things very aware of people and you're trying to speak about it very ahead of it. Okay. Next, desire. Why do we change? Why? Do we have the desire to change? Do we really desire to change, all of us? Yes, we want to. Because we want to be the number one. We want to be top in our entire sector. Whichever sector you specifically belong to, you would like to be on top of it. If you want to be on top of the game, maybe certain kind of structural, technical, people-wise, you need to change certain things. So you desire the change. The entire organization is desiring to change. Now, do we have the particular wisdom and knowledge and skills with us to change? It's a question. So if you don't have, to what extent think that we have? And what are our backlogs, right? What is that we are actually lacking in? Where are our gray areas? Okay. So to fill those gray areas, maybe you have to have the knowledge. So that's where your training and preparation and catching up with a lot of new trends and new technology preparation does happen. Okay. So this is where knowledge assessment, ability. Even after giving, how many of the younger generation, that means you have got a mixture. Some companies do have a lot of middle-age or a ex or a, kind of generation people. So some generations are not there at all in your company, or there are only Z generation, and you don't have the senior generations. So how does it make a difference? Sometimes it make a difference because of your ability to function into that kind of direction. It's not a mix of generations, or it's a completely left skewed or a right skewed kind of results for you. Maybe that's the reason schedule, practice runs before the change is fully implemented. So how many of you are actually ready for it? Can you pull off that particular changes to make happen on your trial and basis? Right? And then your ability to see through the results is also one of the points. So now, after gaining the knowledge and the wisdom and the skills, you're trying to check yourself, experiment physically, saying that, are we able to pull it off? So that's an ability check. Now, reinforcement, the way Kurt Lewin has said that, unfreeze, change, and rephrase. Similarly, reinforcement. Yes, we understood that we have made ourselves aware of the change, the way that we are supposed to change in the contemporary world. We also desire to go for a change. Then we also prepared ourselves to go for updating ourselves, upgrading ourselves, upskilling ourselves with the knowledge and the wisdom and skills that we need. And then we checked ourselves, whatever we have got, whether it is a theoretical classroom or a outbound training program or whatever it is, we got some things and we came back and we put those things into practice, and we checked that our abilities have really moved. Our abilities to do certain things have actually changed. So that's bringing us to some, okay, we are ready. Then your reinforcement happening, where you are monitoring the change the way that you want is happening. Then you call it, yes, change is inevitable and we are actually doing it. We are taken care of the processes of the way that we are supposed to march towards it. We have actually equipped ourselves with so many things, and now we also experimented with all the results. Now we think that we are ready for the change. Now we can improve, we can continue to do the same thing. So that's what your reinforcement is all about. So the ADKAR principle: awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and the reinforcement. This is what happens in the reality also, right? We try to take a stock and we try to see that to what extent you think that we're going to desire the change. Are we there in the same bus like everybody? Some people say that we don't have to change. We don't have to prove like that, right? We don't have to prove anything. No, somebody says that in some companies, they say, no, we have to prove ourselves. Although we are there in the market, we haven't gone into this direction. So this direction is a new direction for us. So we better change. So these are certain areas of desire, whether you are ready to change or not. Now, knowledge, as you said, completely, every minute it's a very interestingly a focused area, because every time things are changing. What you know today may not be so relevant tomorrow. So all the skills that people need by 2040 is so different from what me and others have right now. Let's say that 10 years back, online education, online or dealing with certain kind of softwares from the online process was not a mandatory, but today it's a mandatory, because our education system has become, our training programs have become hybrid. We're not just a physical, we're also into online and hybrid. So the real skill sets that was really prescribed for a trainer or a coach or a faculty has completely massively changed compared to what we were doing it 10 years back to today. So that's how it is going to be in your knowledge and the wisdom or the skills that you're going to, have or equip yourself even coming down the line. So that's why knowledge really beats you. You have to get ready for it. And ability, implementation, checking for it, practicing it and monitoring it, and the way that you mentor your internal departments and the people to implement. Finally, you call it as reinforcement. Yes, bingo, I'm into it. I will change, and I'll call it as a permanent change. We will experiment. We will try to go into the same process coming 1 or 2 years, and we will see the results with the customer, with the market, with the service, with the product, with the process, with the suppliers, everywhere. 360 degrees, we'll try to see that how is it going. Then we call it. Then again, maybe if it is necessary, you may go for another cycle of unfreezing and understanding, and then go for a further change. Okay. Anyone who wants to say anything? This, I need more time, but I'm almost close to this. This one I need more. We will try to continue with the next class, John P. Cotter's 8 steps of a model of a change. Is it okay? Yeah. Anyone wants to share anything? Say anything? I'm purposefully trying to make a dialogue with you guys because Adkar went on well? Yeah?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Fine then. I'll just sign off today because I need more 20 minutes and we are close to, I'm left with only 10 minutes or something, 8 minutes. Fine. Any questions? Anyone wants to say anything, share anything? I'll open the discussion, please. Yeah? About your organization, about the change, about whatever happened so far. Anything is okay.
No questions from me.
Thank you.
No
No
question,
questions,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you. Okay, then we'll call it
Good,
a day
ma'am.
today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ma'am, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.